My name is Caitlin. This is my friend.
Ilona,
I'm from Vermont in the United States, and Alona is from,
Colchester in the southeast of England.
just so that you have context of our accents and the words that we use. Today, Alona and I are going to have a natural conversation. I am going to ask one question, and then we are just going to talk and see where the conversation goes. And you can see what it's like to listen to a natural English conversation. Okay, so are you ready, Alona?
I'm ready.
Okay, so the question is, what is the most dangerous thing in your house?
The most dangerous thing in my house is probably the gas stove
Why do you think that?
because sometimes it does not work very well
Oh,
and it doesn't light. So you turn the knob and usually the fire turns on, but sometimes the fire doesn't turn on. And so gas pumps into the kitchen. And if you do not know about that, it could be very dangerous.
that could definitely be very dangerous. But what do you do to make sure that doesn't happen?
I watch it very carefully. And if somebody who doesn't know the kitchen very well comes to cook, I say, please watch that gas ring because it's a bit dodgy.
Is it only one of the gas rings, not all of them?
It's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a weird gas stove as well. It doesn't do that, but I have to use a lighter to make it light.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
That's,
mean? Like I have
yeah.
to turn the knob and make it so the gas is coming out and then use the lighter so that it actually lights.
Yeah.
It took
That's what
me
we have to do with our broken one if it doesn't work.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this
Makes
stove was here when I moved into my apartment, and it took me a very long time to figure out how to turn on the oven because
Oh,
the top parts I understood that they weren't turning on, like the stove top, but the oven, it took me a really long time. And for a while, I was like, well, I don't have an oven until I get a new one. And then our friend Akash came here and he was staying with me, and he figured out that there was a little hole in the bottom of the oven, and I have to stick the lighter in there and then
oh,
light it.
yeah. I used to have a gas oven and it was the same.
Yeah.
But that was dangerous too. When I lived with my brother, we had this oven and it was older than me. It was such an old oven. And the door to the oven doesn't have a window. So you would go in and you light it and you turn the gas on and it lights, all good, starts to warm up. But if you shut the oven door too quickly, it would blow out the flame
No.
and you wouldn't be able to tell if it was out because there's no window.
Yeah.
So we didn't use it very much.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was terrifying.
Yeah. And do you have a CO2 detector in your house?
Uh, we have a
Is that
CO,
what
a
gas
carbon
is?
monoxide.
That's not the same thing, is it?
Uh,
Oh.
I don't know.
Hmm.
We definitely have a carbon monoxide alarm, which we take when we go camping
Do you?
because we have a stove that goes inside our tent,
Okay.
and we don't light it when we go to sleep. But if it has been on and the tent, we then close the tent. It's a
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
it's safer to keep the alarm
Yeah.
just in case.
I know about that stove. I've seen that stove before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cozy.
Yeah. I don't know what the most dangerous thing in my, I guess maybe I would have the same answer that it would be the stove or the oven. I don't think there's a
You have
lot
a
of,
balcony, right?
yeah. Do you think that's dangerous?
Mm. Maybe not your balcony because it has bars or like a window
Yeah, it's
and a
enclosed.
bar.
I
Yeah.
do think sometimes, so in I live in Portugal, and outside of the window is lines to hang your clothes. My line recently broke, so I have to get it replaced. But there have been many times when I've kind of been leaning out the window to hang things, and I think like, am I hanging too far? Like you could just imagine, having just enough weight on the wrong side that you just kind of go, oop. And I don't live that high off the ground, but I live high enough that you wouldn't want to go head first out the balcony window.
Like a car park as well, right?
Yeah, it's not like a soft bush landing. Yeah. I guess that could be dangerous. Um, I don't know. Do you think that homes are inherently dangerous? They shouldn't be.
No, they should be safe.
Do you think that
They
there are
should be
things
safe.
in our homes that are inherently dangerous?
Sorry?
Do you think there are things in homes that are inherently dangerous?
Oh,
Knives?
sure, because you need a knife, you need things like a boiler
Yeah.
that could explode.
Yeah.
You need, well, you might have stairs.
Mm,
They could be dangerous.
that's true.
Sometimes when I'm walking up the stairs don't have a carpet, and so they're slidey. And if I'm just in socks, I can slip, and
Yeah.
that would be not very nice.
People injure themselves falling downstairs all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do have. I thought of another thing. We have an attic, and we put a ladder in that you kind of is attached to the door, so you can pull it down with a stick,
Okay.
and the ladder unfolds like this. But the ladder has become detached at the top inside the attic. So now when we pull it down from the ceiling, sometimes the whole ladder tries to come down, and that wouldn't be very good.
That does sound dangerous.
Yeah, that's a big metal ladder.
Yeah. Ladders are also, I think, inherently dangerous. Like, I only have a 3-step ladder, so it's not very tall. But at the same time, like I'll go to the top of it and then stand on my tippy toes and reach, which I think a lot of people do.
Yeah,
And it's not very smart.
no, that's yeah, I think they are dangerous, but also because we don't use them very much. So
Yeah.
if it was something that we were used to using every day, maybe we would be better at balancing on them or using them properly. But because it's not something that you use all the time,
That's true.
it's kind of more risk
That's true.
involved.
That's true. Yeah. What have you injured yourself on in your home?
I walk into the end of the bed and bruise myself.
Corners. Yeah. That gets you every
Corners of
time.
everything.
Yeah.
Doorknobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
This corner here, this sofa thing,
Uh-huh.
it's right at the height of my hip.
Yeah.
And when I come through that door, sometimes I'm going too fast and I go into it. That's the worst.
Yeah.
What about you?
I actually have a scar on my leg. Let me see if I can explain this because it's kind of a weird thing that happened. So I have on my balcony, I have an enclosed balcony, so there's windows all around, and hanging down from the windows are like these, they're probably not bamboo, but the idea of bamboo shades, blinds. They hang down and cover the windows, but they're not attached on the bottom. So when it's windy, they blow up a lot. Like they just rattle around and they're attached to the top, but not the bottom. And so one time I was walking along my balcony towards the door. So it was the last blind. And as I walked past it, it blew up a little bit, just enough to catch my leg. But that's not the problem. I walked into it, but the other end was the door. So it pushed into the door and it didn't have anywhere to go. So it pushed into my leg and the door. And it gave me like, I survived. I was okay. But it was like a little round bruise, and it was red. And now I still have an outline. And this was many months ago. I assume it'll go away at some point, but right now I have a scar from this.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, and it's always like these really random things, that happen, and you're like, how did that just happen? Like
Yeah.
everything just happened at the exact right moment. If it had been the blind next to it, it would have hit my leg and bounced off it because there was nothing on the other side. But so I
wow.
did that. I definitely stub my toe a lot. You get your pinky toe on the bottom of the bed.
Yeah, it's bumping into things.
Yeah.
You stub your toe.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
catch your elbow.
Yeah. Your funny bone.
Funny bone.
That's
Horrible.
annoying. Yeah, that's a rough one.
I think I think I'm more clumsy than a lot of people. And I bruise very easily. So when I bump into things, I get bruises immediately.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I feel like I bruise easily too. Or I don't know. But I have a lot of bruises on me all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't always know where they came from. The other day I woke up with a bruise on one of my hands. Like it was like, I feel like you wouldn't be able to see it on the video, but there's still a faint spot right here. And I was like, I have no idea what that's from. How is that possible?
I have a little scar on my hand here.
Oh yeah?
I was in the car and I dropped something down between the seat and where the gear stick is.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that I could get it if I just went quickly. But on the way up again, the plastic that wraps around the gear stick section was slightly loose. So I came up and it caught my hand. And then I dropped the thing I dropped in the first place. So I had to move the seat and it was a whole thing.
Oh no.
It was really painful. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, always the small things. I think I sent you a picture a few weeks ago where I cut my finger.
Yeah.
And it was, again, this is like I was getting ready in the morning and I was just trying to move a hanger, but I have these hangers that hang skirts. So they have like the two parts on the top that you pinch and they open, you put the skirt in and they close. And I kind of got my finger wrapped around one of those metal bits, and on the inside it's like kind of rough edges, and I like just brought my hand out, I was like taking my hand away from the closet and it just kind of snagged this piece of skin. And it was such a small piece of skin, but it was like a chunk, like it like got a good chunk, and it wouldn't stop bleeding for so long. And I kept like trying to bandage it, and it would just like go through the bandages, and I was like, okay, I need to just like sit down and hold it up and let it stop bleeding and then bandage it, because I'm probably going to pass out now.
I was in A&E, so accident and emergency, recently, and a man came in and he had his hand like this, and it was wrapped in kitchen roll, like kitchen towels.
Yeah.
He had it up like this and he was holding it like this. And he was in work clothes, so his clothes were covered in paint, and he'd been doing some DIY. And he was with his friend who was also doing DIY with him. And somebody came through and said, "What's wrong?" There were only the three of us in the room with the nurse who came through. So we were all kind of talking. And he said, "Oh, I was working with an electric lathe," which I think is a machine. If you have a piece of wood, it's a bit complicated. If you have a piece of wood, a lathe is like a metal thing that you do this with on the wood to make the wood smooth, or to make it smaller.
Okay.
But somehow he had an electric one, and he'd been using it on the wood, but it had gone wrong and it had taken off his palm.
Oh no. How do you come back from that?
I don't know. I wasn't there long enough to see. I don't know what happened to him.
It's like he just like sanded off a layer of his skin, basically.
Yeah. They said they put him in the minor injuries department, but I thought it sounded not minor. It sounded major.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on
his friend
how.
said the whole thing was raw red, so it was like his skin wasn't there.
Oof.
So DIY, that's dangerous in your home.
Yeah, this is why we hire professionals.
Yes.
Unless it's paint.
Don't do building in your own home.
No.
Painting, maybe.
Yes, painting is fine. I mean, even when I go to like hammer a nail, I always hammer my finger, Another common one for me is a burn, just like a classic cooking, burn your fingers.
Simple.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. Or sometimes, maybe not a burn, but if you open the oven and it steams your face. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, but that feels like I'm
look too close and the steam hits you.
Yeah. But that's just like a free spa day.
Yeah, I guess. I had an accident once also doing DIY, but this is steam related. And my brother, have I told you this, I
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
And my brother was trying to take some wallpaper off his house. And we were at the top of the stairs. And this wallpaper was really stuck on. And we tried and tried to use it with kind of spatula and all sorts of things. And I said, we can use a wallpaper steamer, which is basically a big kettle that you plug in full of water and it boils up the water. And then there's a pipe that comes out and you just steam it. A bit like if you steam your clothes, to make them look good. You just steam the wall and it warms up the wall and then the paper peels off and then you can just scrape off.
Yeah.
And we were doing this and it was working pretty well. And then it kind of got tangled. And I said, I think the pipe's tangled. I don't want it to break. And I went to untangle it. And luckily, I unplugged the machine just before I did this from the wall. And I turned off the socket and I unplugged it. And then I went to untangle the pipe. And there was still nothing coming out of the end of the pipe, but the water was still bubbling. And then suddenly there was this huge crash. And the entire thing exploded right in my face as I was looking at it. And I had boiling water burst right over my face from here all the way to here, just above my eyebrows and maybe here. But luckily I closed my eyes. And I jumped back and I nearly pushed my brother down the stairs. So he nearly injured himself. And then I ran to the bathroom and I was trying to wash my face to get the hot water up.
Yeah.
And then we went to the hospital and they bandaged me up for the burns. And they called me back about 4 days later to redo the bandage. And I looked like a cartoon character because I had a bandage all the way around my head like this. And I went back and they peeled it off and my skin was completely healed around here and so smooth. It was like it had a facial peel at a spa.
Yeah.
And the nurse was like, what? This is amazing. Because it had been so bad.
Yeah.
And the blisters had just come off. So we clearly washed it that the burn wasn't too bad maybe.
Yeah.
But one bad thing was that I had dandruff in my front of my hair because the skin was peeling. So
well, I feel like it could have been a lot worse. So if that was as bad as it was.
I could have been blinded.
Yeah.
So, once again, DIY, dangerous. But that's not my house. So I'm never using one of them again.
DIY in anybody's house, I guess. Even when you're trying to do, nice things for somebody.
I know.
That's
crazy.
All right. Well, this has been a fun conversation about not injuring ourselves ever too seriously, but always just a little bit.
Yes. It's been great. Thank you.
Stay safe out there, everybody.